that. And okay. All right, good morning. Let's call the meeting to order. It is Tuesday. We're here for our regular council meeting. We're gonna stand for a moment of silence, followed by the pledge of allegiance. Thank you. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Madam Clerk, call the roll, please.
Mayor Kathy?
Here.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
Ms. Call? Here. Mr. Key?
Here.
Mr. Pollock?
Here. Thank you. We have minutes from 3 meetings that we would like to ask the council if there's any corrections or additions. We approve by consent. They look like it's what we talked about to me.
I didn't see anything good.
Well, Chair will have entertain a motion to approve the minutes by consent.
I'll make a motion, we approve the minutes by consent.
Second.
Have a second. Any opposition? That motion carries 5-0. Thank you. All right, moving into our regular agenda items. The first one up is, is the lot split request at 1401 15th Street. We're gonna open a public hearing for comments on that particular, at 1401 on 15th Street. Is there anyone here to speak to that? Mario, if you would, for the record, just give us an overview of that.
Mayor, it's a relatively large parcel, it's just shy of an acre, and they're basically taking it and splitting it into legal lots within our land development code. They have an existing home on one, and they're looking to split 2 other lots so that they can probably sell 2 other lots. And Gina's here to support or not support.
Yes, yeah, I can answer any questions that you have.
All right, well, I just see the P and Z board recommended approval, and if there, is there anyone from the public here to speak? All right, we're gonna close the public hearing then and move to the table. Now, you mentioned lots, there's making 2 lots, not 3 lots.
Right.
Okay.
2 lots. It's 2
2
lots.
lots, yeah, okay. All right, then I was reading that right.
It's an easement that looks like it splits into a
Exactly.
lot.
All right, if there's, at the table, we'll have questions or comments concerning 1401 15th Street.
I went out there and talked to the lady that's doing the remodel on the house, she's not the owner. But I asked her where the driveway was gonna be, and she said, we're gonna take that driveway out. Because if you look at this, you put the point up toward the top and look at it, that's the way 15th Street is here at the bottom. On that 20-foot wide egress ingress, that's where they're gonna bring their driveway out into that, not on 15th. So they're not gonna add a driveway, which I think is good.
Gina, do you have just, if we have questions, you have answers, other than that,
Yes.
you don't have anything?
Not really, I mean, the applicant indicated to me that they wanted to build a house on this larger parcel and use the rest of it to store their boat. That was it.
Okay. All right, if there's no other, Chair will entertain a motion.
Well, I got one question.
All right.
Gina, I know we talked about the easement and all this kind of stuff. Is there enough room on either side to make another lot separate?
There is, there's enough room. That's not what they're asking for, but there is enough room.
So there's a good chance that's what you're gonna do. Okay. And all the buildings are within that one parcel that, like where the house is.
Correct, and they all meet current setbacks.
Okay.
Right. Any other? Chair will entertain a motion.
Make a motion, we accept the lot split on, what's that street?
15th Street.
15th Street, 1401 15th Street.
Okay, we have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Have a motion, second. Call the roll, please.
Mayor Kathy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Cole? Yes. Mr. Key?
Yes.
Mr. Pollard?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, moving to 413, 415 New Mexico, we have a minor replat. I'm gonna open the public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak or comment on the replat at 413 and 415 New Mexico? Is there no one here to speak? Okay, then we'll close the public hearing, and we'll move to the table, and again, Mario, if you would, just give us
This
a little
one-
record.
This one is taking two parcels and making one parcel, so it's fairly simple.
All right, the map shows what they're doing, that we all have had and looked at. Is there any questions, comments from the table as far as what they're doing? And that's, according to the information that they're doing that so that they can add a garage, or something that's gonna be attached to the house.
Detached.
A detached, correct, my bad. But it's not for a house, I guess I should have just said. All right, if there's no questions, P and Z also approved. Chair will entertain discussion or motion.
I make a motion to approve the combination of lot 14 and 16 on New Mexico Drive.
13, 15.
Oh, I'm on the wrong ones, 13 and 15, right. For Susan M. Marley. Is that? Oh,
That's the survey.
Okay, for whoever, what's her name?
Just stay with 13 and 15.
Sherry Emler.
Second.
All right. Any questions? Call the roll.
Mayor Kathy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Cole? Yes. Mr. Key?
Yes.
Mr. Pollard?
Yes.
All right. Moving on, number 3 is a development order for the data tower. I think we've got probably more information than we could have on this. We got it. But we're gonna turn this over to our, well, I didn't realize this had to have a public hearing. All right, we're opening the public hearing for the data tower that's at the end of 22nd Street. Surely there's someone here to speak about as much information as we got on it. All right, close the public hearing. Move to the table, Mario,
Mayor, this is.
condense this for us.
We will condense it. The tower was supposed to be at the end of 22nd Street. At the time, we didn't know that we were gonna be building a new municipal complex on the north side of the ditch. Since we are doing that, we've asked Bay County if they were willing to move the tower from the current location on 22nd to further to the north corners of this overall 25-acre parcel. What you have in your drawing is that 25-acre parcel, and then the tower located towards the northwest quadrant of that. So it puts it good and far away from all the buildings. It's a 260-foot tower, so the idea was to get it at least 300 or 400 feet away from the nearest building, so if it were to ever drop, it wouldn't hurt anything. Once you go to the west of this location, it's all wetlands, so the likelihood of anything being built in that area is minimal. We are working with Bay County. Bay County will need a temporary site to get that radio system up and running. It's an 800 megahertz system that the sheriff's office will use, and all the other municipalities will share that. It allows them connectivity with everybody all the way down to the Keys. The whole state of Florida will be operating under that 800 megahertz by September, and that's the key, is we've got to get this thing up and running. So in order to have a temporary site, they will set up within our yard. I've already talked to Thomas about the possibility of them being set up on the east end of our yard so that they can get access to our generator power, and they'll set up a 100-foot tall boom out of a trailer, operate for the 3 or 4 months that it takes to permit this. It's a 3 to 4 month permitting process, so that'll be the delay. But and right now, this tower, if we relocate it, is not inside the city limits of Mexico Beach. I'm doing this in an abundance of caution because once we get the site, we will annex it into the site. I just wanted to make sure that the council was okay with the premise of having 260-foot tower on the northwest quadrant of their own site.
Okay? So we are doing our own development order for the relocation, or just, I'm a little,
This is more a courtesy thing. I don't know, I'll ask Nick, but I don't know that we have to do anything. But if I had 3 people that were saying, no, thank you, we don't want to, then I'd
I got it.
regroup. This is more just to make sure that y'all are okay with it, because
Okay.
it'll get built
This is
within
a
the county.
long, this is a long time in coming. So, it's just,
With the site that's under consideration now, not being in the city right now, there's no reason to approve a development order. But this was in process 10 days ago when we thought that there was gonna be a development order approved right behind this building.
I got you. Okay, so, more information.
So,
Do we have questions concerning the tower, or from anyone that has a comment on what we're doing, why we're doing it?
Well, it's certainly a better location because of the fall radius, in case we were to have a hurricane, it would topple it, it's not gonna hit, because there was homes and everything else that it could hit, there was a lot of potential for trouble
Well,
where it was gonna go.
I'm just concerned that that it's okay with what we've picked out, they can make it work. That's,
And their engineer, the company that Bay County has hired to put these antennas up has been working on it. We actually walked out onto the site on Wednesday or Thursday of last week. So we set foot on the site, and they've got engineers that are working on it. They're planning on delineating the wetlands, staying 30 feet away from the wetlands, and siting that property as far to the west as possible.
okay. Everybody good?
So when you're talking about the annex, you're talking about the whole 5 acres?
Yes, sir.
and where did you say the temporary tower will be? For the
It'll be
short term?
on the east side of the Public Works buildings.
Okay. Moving on.
Next item that we have on number 4 is the Welcome Center. I had the Welcome Center drawings available in the conference room for everyone to look at. We've included 3 or 4 of the sheets for the Welcome Center. There's a perspective, the first sheet, floor plan, second sheet, ceiling plan, and then elevations. It's a relatively simple building. It's approximately the same size as the original one, and we hope to get bids on this fairly soon. The funds have come through from the insurance company and have also come through from FEMA. So we have the funds and we're ready to build, so I hope to put this out on the street and get it built as quickly as we can.
All right. I went and asked the lady on the back row if it was right word, and she said it was, and it was right with me.
Exactly what I did. I didn't
I
ask
mean, the
you.
design of the building is fine, as far as I'm concerned, I think it's kinda cute, a little more, got a little modern architect, I'm sure she picked that out. But, so what we need is approval, so that when the bid is released, that the record will show that the city approved, because this is our building. Strictly on paper, our building. She's so quiet back there, it's just killing me. Killing me.
Please.
But, if there's any questions, this has been something that's, again, this is a record will probably sure we started talking about this 9 to 10 months ago, or longer. So,
Is all the parking gonna be the same that it was?
We basically did not change the site layout, so the site layout
So
will
this
remain
fits
pretty
where
much
the
the
other
same.
one was.
So those Christians can part of that.
Well,
I can't stir her up at all.
I'm gonna roll with it. She's gonna cut loose here in a minute. I want it.
This is the fight she's been in a long time.
Why don't you ask her to say something?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I just,
you're not sick, are you?
no.
I mean, I'll make a motion if you want me to.
All right, if everybody is comfortable, that will be the city building, known as the Welcome Center. We're ready to go out for bid, and hopefully we can stretch our money and get it where we need it to be. We need a motion to accept the design of the new Welcome Center.
Make a motion, we accept the design of the City of Mexico Beach Welcome Center.
Second.
Have a motion second. Any comments? Again, call the roll, please, Madam Clerk.
Mayor Kathy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Key?
Yes.
Mr. Pollock?
Yes.
Cameron, why don't you, before we move on, and we just left, there's really not a place that you wanna address about, was just sort of, the July 4th?
That's it, yes, sir, I can now.
All right, why don't you just do that now, and then, or in your other, whatever else you had, I know you had a couple things.
No, that's it, just for
Yeah,
fireworks.
okay,
Okay, so the, fireworks for the 4th are, through special events. It's gonna be shot off at the end of Canal Parkway. I've talked with Tommy and Thomas about getting that road blocked off from the bridge. There's no, residential dwellings that are inhabitable down there, so we're not keeping any residents out. I would say on the 4th, we probably need to block the road at the start of Canal Parkway, with the understanding that there will be certain people that need to, like Turtle Patrol will still need to access the beach for their morning runs, and then those 2 houses that are, permanent residents on Canal Parkway. The Welcome Center will be closed since it's on a Saturday, and the fireworks will be shot off at 8:30, using the same firework company that we have in the past. Special Events has, already, secured the fireworks and the funds for the most part. The gumbo cook-off was such a success this year, thankfully that helped them with these funds, cause that's all Special Events does, is raise money for the fireworks. And, they sent out letters for those who do wanna donate towards the cause, it's always greatly appreciated, and maybe we'll write your name in lights one day. So, so that's pretty much it for the fireworks, they can be seen all throughout Mexico Beach, no worries that, I know some people have had some concerns since it's not being shot off the pier with the height and everything, but they'll still be seeable, and they'll still be enjoyable, and they'll be beautiful, like always, so we're excited to bring 4th of July back to Mexico Beach.
awesome.
Yes.
The only problem I got on closing that road, you do have boats.
I'm not closing the water.
The what road?
Well, yeah,
People get to their boats.
right, but past the bridge, I mean, we'll work
Well,
through
past
it.
The bridge is fine.
Yes, sir,
But
that's,
at the start,
right, we'll fix it, we'll work through it, I promise.
you sure?
I'm sure, we always do.
All right, thank you. We welcome the 4th of July fireworks. All right, moving on. Civic Center replat. Mr. Attorney,
Yes, sir.
I think that's you.
This project initiated when the Civic Center was destroyed and the council discussed selling the property where that was located. At the time, Andy Henderson, the city administrator, he and I looked at the property lines, the plat, and realized that they didn't match up very well. The ownership lines and the plat were different. So he asked Newberry to work on replatting the city's land where the Civic Center was located so that it matched the ownership that had developed over the past several decades. And selling the property. So I'm gonna ask you to look at the third page of this item first, which is the plat that looks more like a hand-drawn, handwritten map. That's the actual plat area, and the property that we're talking about is the furthest to the left and top, where there's a big G, and then there's a 1 and a 2 on those lots. We're, after all the work trying to figure out who owns what on this property and where to draw the lines, what we're really doing is that lot that's G1, it's the very furthest to the top on the left. We're just going to lower the northern boundary line on it to match what the city actually owns right now. The property to the north of it over time, basically was informally removed from this plat. So then going to the first page of this material, that is the actual replat that you're being asked to approve today. And it focuses on that lot 1. The boundary between lot 1 and lot 2 is not being changed, so we're only really changing the northern boundary of lot 1. And for context, that line between lot 1 and lot 2 is very close to where the Civic Center front door used to be. The footprint of the building matched up pretty well with that line. The city, as far as I know, still owns the land to the south, but that's just going to be kept as a public parking lot. And then the land to the north is already owned by other parties.
So what is the description of this property? Is it by lot, block, and unit?
Well, there's a legal description of the property on this replat, and it's in the top left corner. But for future purposes, when we sell this land, it'll just be lot 1, block G.
Lot 1, block G? Okay.
Yes.
All right. So after months of, we did two things. One, the council before this one started this, we talked about it with this council and we said, yes, let's move forward. We now have finally, I think it was Bob that said, what do we have to sell? And we finally now can look at it on paper and define and say, this is what we have. So today we need, tell me we need to accept the replat, is that what is our action?
Approve this replat.
Okay.
And then at that point, it'll get signatures and be recorded in plat books.
All right, so do we need to talk about are we now ready to sell it? Or do we have to wait till all of that? I mean, can we list it?
You could begin that. The process to get the signatures and get this recorded should be completed this week.
Okay, so it's not a big, all right, so we need to accept the replat. I guess that's our formal action. Then we can come back to discuss the property after this, why don't we just get the chair will entertain a motion or questions or discussion concerning the replat of the Civic Center property.
I make a motion, we accept replat of lot 1, block G, Civic Center property.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion from anyone?
I got a question. On the, are we guaranteed, because I went back and looked at all these plats since this started, and none of them are the same. I mean, and when I buy, I'm thinking for myself, of buying and selling property, somebody's liable when they sign that, not the buyer or seller, but that lawyer. Is the city gonna be liable for it? We know where that property line is, or we think we know where that property line is, or?
In terms of who owns the property?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of what took a while over the last few months. We've looked at that closely. We've already engaged with a title company.
The title, yeah.
And we've looked at that closely. The two things that made this take a while was that the title in this area was messy, not just in this northern part of this line we're adjusting, but it's even messier to the south, and we looked at that for a while and stopped. And then the other thing is, doing such a small replat, which just while to get the format and the process sorted out.
When we started, Jerry, not to interrupt, but one of the big issues was, can we issue clear title?
Yeah, that's.
And now we can do that.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to sign this replat, so.
That's why I'm asking, you being the city,
Yeah, we can issue clear title. Title company will accept.
so if
That-
you,
that's-
that's good, that every one of them plats and we had was, everything different. But just as long as you gonna stand behind whoever buys it or something that the city, I want it to be where we can set it legally without coming back. Just
Yeah.
set it and get it over with, that's what I wanna do. But I wanna make sure we're gonna do it with the title company and whoever's gonna.
I work with First American Title
Okay,
for a
that's-
month or so.
That's only my question.
And I'm assuming we got it surveyed, so.
Well, this is
Pick new
the
pins.
equivalent of survey.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I want.
What is it zoned?
Commercial.
John commercial.
Yeah,
But
once
it's
we,
part of the business center.
we could discuss it now, but, it's probably better to have a discussion.
Let's get
Let's
this.
get it back.
Yeah, we had a motion. Did you second? Did anyone second? Sharon
Sharon
seconded.
seconded.
All right, we have a motion second. Only, and that's to accept the replat. Call the roll, please.
Mayor Kathy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Keith?
Yes.
Mr. Pollock?
Yes.
Okay, the replat's done, let's have, if there's general discussion concerning the property, let's go to that now.
So what we anticipate, you could guide that a different direction if you want. When this would go for sale, we're going to, based on the rules in your code of ordinances about the shopping center, we would stipulate that they don't need to have any parking because there's already parking to the south, if they don't expand the square footage of the building that was previously on the property. And it's not a very big property, so that square footage is fairly appropriate for the size of this lot. If someone came along and wanted to add more square footage, I guess we need to do the calculations and have them allocate some of their own space for parking. So those would be the limitations on the property going forward. So the benefit is there aren't a lot of places in Mexico Beach where it's easy to meet parking requirements, and we're gonna just say this already does meet parking requirements. The disadvantage is they're probably capped in square footage that they can rent.
On the bill.
That's all.
Now, you mentioned earlier about in between, lot 2 and lot 1, there was a parking space.
Uh,
Was that?
Yeah, if you look at the line between lot 1 and lot 2, that's basically where the row of parking used to be right next to the Civic Center. Those were the first row of parking spaces that went right up to the front of the building. So those parking spaces aren't being set up to be sold. They're gonna still be there, and they'll just be open to all users of the shopping center.
Okay?
Have we thought anything about the price or anything on it? Has anybody compared what?
I talked to Zach, who helped us before, or not helped, he said he would honor the same agreement as far as listing, like he did over here. But the issue here for him is the same that, I mean, there's not been a parcel sold in that shopping center in 40 years. Those are almost the all. So, I don't know, I don't know real estate people want comparables, that's how they operate, but I don't know how we would, other than ask him or somebody else, or us to say, I don't know, I have no suggestion there.
Yeah, there are really two options. There's the traditional way of get a realtor and put a list price on it and see if you get buyers to approach it. The other approach that cities will do sometimes is they'll just advertise for people to put in sealed bids on a price.
Yeah.
Sometimes that goes well, but you've really gotta be comfortable that the world knows about this property for sale and they want it right away, because if you put a 30-day or a 60-day time frame on it, some people aren't ready to act that quickly.
My concern would be, on that, would be the realty that in the track, and then after we sort of did that for a while and got it, then maybe we could do it the other way. But we have in our mind about what the property worth, or think we know what it's worth, so that'd be my suggestion, is to look.
I don't think we'll know till we put it out
That's
there.
what I'm saying, put it out there on the realtor tomorrow.
If it's too high, we won't get him. You know, I guess that's
What we got to start somewhere.
Well, if we start high, we can always come down,
There you
but if we put it too low and we sell it the first day, we knew we screwed up, so.
That's exactly right.
all right,
When you mentioned the same arrangement as Zach, I think I recall he didn't charge his own commission on it, maybe.
that's correct. And he said he would do that again for the city.
1,500 for the charge.
Well, he didn't sell it.
That's
Talking
probably
the lot
what's
over
going
here.
on.
He listed it. Had he sold it, he wouldn't have, but he didn't sell it. On the MLS, someone else, some other realtor, and is that what it was, 1,500? That was their,
So another realtor brought him a buy,
Buy.
and the other realtor got two and a half or 3% or something.
that's exactly
Whatever.
right.
That's not
He
bad.
did get paid for something.
Mark, why don't, do you know Zach?
Yes, sir.
Why don't you just reach out to him and tell him what we're trying to do and come up with something.
Well,
And then,
Or
is that,
Yeah, my only other comment would be, do you wanna give Mario authority to set the initial list price, or do you wanna discuss that?
we want to,
I'll bring it back.
we want to bring it back.
Or bring it back?
Bring it back, and it can be, yeah, I think in 2 weeks, that'll be fine.
well, the realtor too might take a bite, since there's very little commercial property in Mexico Beach now, so, and I know Zach, I like him, but it might be, somebody else might want to list it, so I don't know how.
Well, they'll all be listed.
All of them list. I mean.
Yeah, it'll go MLS.
Yeah, with Zach.
All
in the
Zach
past,
does is,
volunteer
if he
dues,
sells it, he
basically
won't
not
charge
get
you
paid
anything.
anything.
If it's,
If Zach sells it, he just said he would be glad to list it, and if he was the seller, there would be no commission.
Only the other realtor.
Not yet, he just, like Nick said, another realtor bought him a buyer, and so the realtor that brought him the buyer got the commission.
And that's standard practice.
Sure,
Yeah.
yeah, I understand. Okay, well then we'll reconvene on this in a couple of weeks and see what we think is a good way to go and. All right, anything else on the replat, as far as Nick, you have anything else?
No, Mayor.
Okay. All right, let's see, where are we? We are
6.
number 6. That looks like our administrator again, go ahead.
Mayor, we've been working on getting some money from FEMA for a little while on debris haul off for KK Storm, and $7,046,093 came in, and we wrote a check for $7,036,342 to KK Storm. This money was directly for KK Storm, so it was fine to give it directly to them. There was no, so just wanted to bring y'all up to speed. This puts us at this point at $50 million that has been paid out for the storm, and we still owe approximately $13.6 million. So we're starting to whittle away at our debt.
Pretty amazing.
But all the projects have not been, we haven't gone through the process of the project list, so, I mean, that,
Yeah, again, and keep in mind, I mean, if you look at the big ticket item here, Crowder Golf at 11.18
yeah.
is a big ticket item. We continue to work with FEMA to get that rolling through, and it's a bunch of work. But we'll get there little by little. We did receive $1 million for the public works buildings and equipment and all those things, so we do have that money in. Some of that money
any questions concerning the sheet showing our payment tracking? I gotta ask you, we got in 750.44, we only paid out 736, you go to lunch, what happened? I'm just curious.
We have to make payments based on invoices, so we take the invoices and we sit there and calculate them to
Okay.
get them as close as
Close
we
as you
can.
can. I'm sure Frank was excited.
He was okay with the minus $9,000 when he got the 7 million. And to add a little insult to that injury, Mayor, they deposited the check, they forgot to sign it. And they had to go back to the bank today to sign it. But again, I can see how they would be excited
You know,
about the $7 million
yeah.
check.
I might not have stopped to do that either. Well, we just keep plugging away. I think we've got the wolves at bay. I really do, from what all indications. Even though some, I know Crowder that's an exception, but most of the, from what I see, we're dancing around and through, but we're getting there. So, compliments to all that have to deal with that every day. I know it's not
Very
easy.
much.
I know it's not easy. All right, we will move to staff reports. Mr. Turner?
I don't have anything to report, but from just the conversation today, I am interested on future lot combinations like we have today. The building department and I looked at this a few months ago, and we don't really have clear rules about what to do in these situations. So what we've been doing, where they're coming to you as these replats, these minor replats, it's just basically the custom, it's what's been done here for a while. Do you like that, or would you like something that's a little simpler for the applicants when they're combining residential lots?
If they're combining platted lots, well, you can go to the plat, and you can see that there was 2 lots originally. I was a little surprised that we did this one, because if they're already platted, then I don't see a big deal. But when they're trying to change the boundary lines of the property, then I got a concern. But if you can look at the plat of New Mexico, and you can see that those were clearly 2 distinguished, easily discernible lots. Are you saying just that would have been a case where you could have just simplified that? Is that my understanding?
Well, we probably want to update the land development code to say how to do it, but we could have a way to do it that's a lot quicker and easier for an applicant. You probably wouldn't want to do it with commercial properties, because then you might really start reshaping what would be built. But if it's just 2 small residential lots become 1 big residential lot, so they can build a bigger house, it's very rare that anybody would oppose that.
I would only oppose it if it were not, if it was previously platted that way and they wanted to combine them. But if they wanted to take half of it and do something and half of it and do, then, but if they're gonna take the whole platted lot and make it part of the other whole platted lot, just like this case. There's no reason that anybody would, we wouldn't even have good grounds to say no to.
I got no complaints about that. The only complaint I would have if it's already, if they wanna break it up and there's a building on each side.
Oh, sure.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Well, if say like 13 and 15 though, if they combine that, I mean, are they gonna be able to put duplex or triplex on that now?
That
Because-
changes zoning. Combining them doesn't change the zoning category.
It's possible that they could go from not being able to do duplex, where they didn't have enough land for 2 units,
Right.
to being allowed to do it because they now had enough land.
And then they could
But they
petition
were-
for rezoning,
They were theoretically always allowed to have a duplex, they just might not have enough land.
but they could go in for rezoning even if they had to rezone to get a duplex or do they have to do that?
Right, but they may already be zoned so that they could have a duplex, they just didn't have enough
Didn't
land.
have enough land to.
So that could be an instance when you might be less sure, because you've got one case where it's definitely gonna be a small house, and then it changes
if there's enough land, they could have put the duplex across.
Well, if they have a very small lot, it wouldn't, the density on it may not allow 2 units. So they would combine 2 lots so that they'd have enough land to meet the density requirements to have 2 units, which they could do with a duplex. I'm not saying that's gonna happen, but it could happen.
Okay.
Okay, this has always been a pet peeve of mine, so I'm bringing it up. If you got originally 2 lots, you join them together. Okay, we have had lots be broken back up, not gone through the city. How do we handle that?
Shouldn't issue them a building permit.
So probably the reason why that's happening is when the lots were joined, it wasn't in a way that there was something formal in a plat book or a public record that established that permanently. It was probably done more informally, and then when someone said, well, now I want to do 2 houses instead of 1, they pointed to an older plat, the official records, and it was already 2 lots.
I've seen where you got 2 lots joined together, a house built in the middle of them. Michael tore down. It was divided back up into 2 lots. Not through the city. That's something I want to really address. I want to make
That's
sure.
not the.
But it happened.
Bay County cannot, I mean, golly, we've been through that many times with them over there.
I understand that. It happened.
I don't know.
And it's in my neighborhood, one reason I know.
They just split them, they have not built anything yet. Try to
They
get a
got
building
one
permit,
up to sell.
but they split the lots, gonna split them.
So, yeah.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
The 2 parcels that we just joined, for all intents and purposes in the property appraiser's website and every place else, it's still 2 parcels. So we joined them in here, in the meeting, but they are still 2 separate parcels. Is that not correct?
The way to make it very formally joined as 1 parcel is to record a new boundary line in the plat book. And at
Which
that
is what
point,
we've never done.
nobody's gonna be able to change that without involving you at a very detailed level.
Well, going back down the line, several years from now, they put a, detached, shed, garage, whatever on 1 lot. This again had been done before here with a detached garage, and it was split again, back. So it had a garage on a separate lot. You know, this stuff is, you know, we wanna make sure we cannot let happen. We can't let these people build a detached garage and then several years from now go, well, we need to go back to our same lots.
Well, we could if it met the setback.
No, they have a detached garage on it. It'd
Oh,
be-
that's right, yeah, okay, nothing but a detached.
Right.
Right.
And this again has happened.
Well, do they have to get a request to, if somebody owned, what if those were already joined and they wanted to separate them? Do they have to come to us to separate them?
When you say already joined, if you mean
But
formally.
for
shown
already
on-
1 lot.
In the plat book is 1 lot, then
Yeah.
you can come to you for a lot split.
Yeah, okay.
But if it's really what the, let's say, let's not talk about today, let's say 20 years ago, somebody got permission to build a house on 2 lots. A lot of people felt like, oh, the lots have been combined into 1 lot. Well, what it might look like on paper though, is just permission from the city to say, you can build 1 house on 2 lots, and you can center it up, and then when that house is gone, on paper, it still looks like 2 lots.
Well, I mean, can we require that they have to, if they're gonna join these 2 lots, that they have to replat it as 1 lot only without being 2 lots? Can
That
we require that?
That would be what would protect the city the best against the issue process simpler and quicker, it may not be such a objectionable thing to them.
So we can include that in that
Version.
quicker version.
Yep.
See, I thought we did that. We don't have that, I thought we signed, I thought we said that you have to take this letter to the courthouse
Replat.
and get that done. Help me, Jenny, isn't that what you
Okay,
said?
yes, that's what you said, but that doesn't truly change the plat, and that's what Nick's getting at. You still have lot 14 and 15. It doesn't change the lines of the
It
plat.
does if you go in the property appraiser's office, that center line's not there.
But that's not plat, that's property
I
appraiser
agree.
website.
Yeah, that's for ownership and taxes.
Right. So, what you've done with the Civic Center property is a true replat. Everybody else doesn't do that. Nobody else in the city does that unless you're platting a subdivision. All these little replats we've done, nobody goes through the process that you just done.
And part of the reason why the city did that true replat is, it's been talked about before at times, maybe the city should start requiring other folks to do a true replat. And how can the city require other people to do a true replat if the city didn't do it itself?
So, help me understand a little more, I believe I know exactly what you're saying. Years ago, used a piece of property. They joined two lots together. Over those years, they built a house, they built a garage, they built a gazebo on those two lots joined together. Okay, somebody went and took the house lot away from the one with the garage and gazebo. It was split. Somebody, some way, somehow. What do we need to do? Again, I think I know what I'm gonna say, to keep this from happening again, just like on what we just approved.
The most straightforward conventional thing is to just require real replats, because at that point, if the lot has been combined in the plat books as a single lot, it couldn't be split up by someone unless they came here for a real lot split.
Okay, now, you say we need to add an ordinance or whatever to have that done?
We would need to, because there've been decades of not doing it that way. It wouldn't work just to informally tell people to do it differently.
Well, I'm all for it.
What does it take to replat? How complex is it? Is it a planning, city council approval, so it's a two-step process?
Two-step process, the issue is the fees for the surveyor are drastically different between what we're doing currently and the actual replat process.
Yeah, I think folks will generally experience about 5, 6, 7 times more fees from a surveyor, which is unfortunate because it's basically a survey with some extra language added to it. But that's how they are priced typically.
Well, I don't personally see that extra cost is is something we need to protect them from, because what they're doing, you know, they may stay there and there not be any problem, but when they go to sell this, the other person that comes in, they have a big issue with what they did, they may wanna sell it this to. You know, so I don't see that, if they wanna do it, make one lot out of it, I think they should pay the cost to get it replatted. Even if it is a little bit more money, that's something that they need to take into consideration when they do it, in my opinion. I mean, if I was doing this, I actually would not have a problem if you guys said, hey, you gotta replat the whole thing, you know? Yeah, and we're not talking about thousands and thousands of dollars.
I don't know what just a residential lot owner would experience, but I would expect it to be at least, the way they're priced right now, at least probably 3,000.
Really.
It may not.
A survey's a couple hundred, a replat's gonna be a couple thousand.
Yeah, normal survey, just because you're buying or selling a house, they run around 500.
Well, who keeps up with the map? We got a map on the wall, so we can't be changing the map every, you know what I mean, we use that land use map that's on the wall and it shows the lots and do you just every so often keep up with them and then you have the map redrawn? I guess that's what you do. You follow what I'm saying? The plat,
That's not platinum.
no, but it's used as that. So what, who, then, like, take the plat map, the paper copy plat, who changes that?
That's changed in the Bay County courthouse,
They change it.
based on a document produced by a surveyor.
Right.
That is signed, has necessary signatures and everything. They record it with clerk of court.
And
Until
those-
then, it's not truly changed.
Those documents, they're not, nobody goes and like edits them. You record something new that shows a change to the old maps. So the old maps are still there, and then there's a newer version too.
Okay. Okay.
Well, thinking back now, if I'd known what we've been talking about here, back on the replat on New Mexico, I wouldn't have voted for it. Until we had some firm way to make sure this is gonna be changed later.
Well, we can just write a rule in the land development code that says something along the lines of, if two parcels have been the location of one house, in the future you can't get an approval to do, split up into two houses, you can do that, I've seen rules like that before. But that won't guarantee that someone doesn't still just go sell off half the property and come to you later and say, I can't, what do I do? It's half of it's gone already. You'd have to be a bad cop at that point, instead of preventing the sale from happening to begin with.
But wouldn't they have to come back to us again? I find it follow by here, this is a little bit over my head, but if we did approve the, put them together, and then you said they'd come back and split them again, is that what you worried about doing?
Yeah,
Well,
it's
wouldn't
been
they have to
done
come-
before.
But wouldn't they have to come back before?
It had been done before.
So the problem is,
I know the
what's
one you
in
called.
your packet, it's a nice survey, it's very official, but you can't just go to the clerk and say, report this in the plat book, we changed something. They won't record it, it doesn't have all the details on it that are required. We might be able to get it reported in just regular public records, but that's not as good. So even though we've done this approval, we might not be able to prevent or even know about a sale that occurs later. What we can do is we can approve and deny or do code enforcement on what's supposed to be built there or what is built there, and it might not meet the codes anymore if the land's been divided into two different owners. But it's very difficult for an elected body to go out and say, you gotta tear down that detached garage that looks perfectly fine, because now it doesn't meet the code. That, in my experience, that doesn't happen.
So what do you say then, what are our choices? We got a couple of choices, we can do it which way or what?
You really have three choices. You can keep doing it the way you're doing it, which isn't ideal, but I mean, it's the way it's been done here for a long time. Your second choice is to require real replat documents in these situations, and that will firmly establish, not just for city building approvals, but for title purposes, what the lot lines are, and you won't have sales occurring that just informally split a lot in half. And then your third option is to leave the process alone, but add a rule that basically says that when you built a house on multiple lots, you no longer can later build more houses than that on those lots. That will work sometimes, but not every time.
Yeah, I don't like the sometimes part of that, personally.
Well, we can't fix it. We can start a wheel turning to do something today. We can give Nick direction of what we want to do. Now, I don't, we've gone to court to prove Joe's house, Joe's lot splits, we spent a ton of money,
$60,000.
and we prevailed that those lot splits were not legal. And they were recorded, those particular ones, I'm going back a few years. But we went through that process where if you just go to Bay County and you tell them, and they do that, and they don't come through the city, those lot splits aren't legal. Everybody, well, see enough faces that remember that, Bobby remembers.
I remember.
Do you remember though in that case, when there was the lot split that was illegal, was it a property that had always just been one lot?
Yes.
Or was it a property?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's different. We're talking about something that's two lots that is approved to have, in essence, a one lot kind of development. But on paper, in the plat book, still looks like two lots, and somebody later on says it's two lots, right? It's always been two lots.
So
they're-
we're
they're
talking different, we're not talking the same. Well, I only brought that up because when he said, well, it's been done since Michael,
Mhm.
if someone did that and went to Bay County, and Bay County said, yeah, we'll change it, and they don't have any documentation from the city, then it was done, it wasn't done properly.
Well,
And it doesn't have to be, we don't recognize it.
That's correct, and I don't think you'll see that problem if it's something that in the plat books is just shown as one lot, as opposed to
Okay,
multiple lots that have been allowed to have
I got
a
you.
combined structure.
but again, what's happened, it might show two lots, but it was joined together, stuff built on it, maybe in the middle of two different spaces. And because it was two lots previously, we allowed them to build on one thing and pay taxes on one thing. But then undoubtedly Bay County or somebody allowed them to separate back into two different lots, even though the stuff had been built.
It left a non-conforming structure, that's what you did.
Right.
It left a non-conforming structure on what proved a lot, okay.
And while we control building, and we'll tell somebody don't build something that's not conforming, we might fall into situations where there's something that's non-conforming that we never expected, we didn't approve, and at that point, you're stuck in a bad situation because, again, it's very uncomfortable and painful to go through a code enforcement process where you're asking for something to be torn down that's in good condition and that at the time when it was built 5 or 10 years ago was allowed.
Well, I'm not saying it should be ended up being non-conforming. It shouldn't be able to be split back into two lots. And that's what I'm gonna try to get out of it.
Right.
Yes, ma'am.
So, sometimes we have a situation where you have two small lots, might have been townhouse lots. Someone has built a structure, pre-Michael, on those two lots, straddling two lot lines. The lot was never combined, the replat was never done, it was still two lots, so when Hurricane came, wiped away, you still have two lots. Now, you had a single family home on it, but these people actually have two lots. So we can't say that they can't build on those two lots, because that's what they actually had, even though they had one home on two lots.
I understand.
Yeah. So that's back to that replat situation, if it's not replatted correctly and recorded, then it still remains two lots, even though we might have said we combined.
That's the whole point I wanna make.
Yep.
Let's make sure it is done correctly, so we will not run into this later.
Yeah, Rock, what you got?
Just, as a citizen living here, I can see your point. The house on New Mexico has just got combined, they're behind me. Them people own five or six lots. They don't even live here. So they combine their two together so they can put a separate garage. Across the street from them, they own another 4 lots. And you look at property appraisers, 3 and then 1. And it's the same deal. Who knows what's gonna happen? I don't know how this stuff's plotted. Until you guys started talking about this right now, I thought when you combine them, you had to go down and get a new plot. I think that just makes perfect sense to have that done and recorded and be set in stone. I mean, that's right behind me. On the other side of me, I have, 4 lots. People have owned them since the 80s. I don't know what's gonna happen to them. They could do the same thing. Let's combine them together, and next thing you know, it's split back up, and who knows what's being built there. From a citizen's point, looking at this, I would make people go down and record it and get it done legally. So there it is. They can't do anything besides how it's platted if they wanna do it.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I guess I thought we had a little more handle on what they could do to avoid this. Put them together, build something, take them apart. I'm okay with, I mean, if people wanna replat things, that's what it is. It's a replat deal. I mean, that's the purpose of it. And if the expense is you know, I guess my question comes, they come here, they replat it, what do we have in line, what do we do to ensure that they fulfill that?
After we pass it,
Yeah,
what makes us?
Yeah,
How do we
what
do it?
says, okay, Frank, we got this, how do we know that they go down and go through that process, or do you, I mean, how you do that?
The plat itself is what ensures it, because that plat becomes a recorded document. What we did today is an internal housekeeping type thing.
I understand.
This information does not go to the county. If we plat it, the reason that the surveyors charge more money is they've got to produce a legal document, a drawing, and all 5 of you will sign it, and the city attorney will sign it, and the engineer, everybody signs it, and it goes to the county. And the county does put that into the record books. That's why the replat.
So we sign the plat, just like you do in an original plat, when it's first laid out, you got all those signatures on.
It may be that it just becomes a new rule here and it has to be done with some frequency. Maybe one of the surveyors will realize, oh, this isn't very hard. This is just 2 residential lots and they'll make it cheaper. But for now, when the surveyors hear replat, they think this is hard, it's gonna be more work and I'm gonna charge more.
Well, is that what we wanna do, guys and gals, is we, I mean, we want, if they come like we just approved one, and we have language that says it has to be replatted and follow in the land development code, here's what you have to do. And that, am I right? I mean, it would be here's the requirements.
Yeah.
And they get approval here to replat it, then what do? They have so many days to bring it back, or I'm a little bit, I don't wanna make it too, how does all that work?
Oh, you're thinking about maybe telling them ahead of time before they have to spend all the money and then they bring back.
Yeah, well, yeah, they ought to know, that's a requirement. To come here, the housekeeping that Mario's talking about, we did. But 10 years from now, how do we know that plat's changed? What do we do?
Well, the way to really change a plat is to report something new in the plat books at the courthouse.
I understand. But we don't do that.
Oh, you mean, how do we know 10 years later that something?
How do we know that Frank went down there and did that?
Hopefully we're maintaining good records and there's someone who knows where to look. I don't think anyone's getting rid of records. I think the problem is you have no turnover, people forget where to look.
Well, if we tell people, if we told those people that you're gonna have to get it replatted in order for us to approve it, then they would come with that documentation already done and already paid for.
That's the normal way, yes. It's just like if you had a new subdivision with 50 lots. They come and bring you the real document on the day that you're looking at things.
Well, that's what I'm trying to get at. Okay.
So,
I missed that part of, I thought it's done at the time it's brought before us.
That is
That's
he's
part of
the
it.
best way.
that's the right way to do it. In the past, there've been a few times when this council has given someone the thumbs up and then they did the paperwork after the fact, but that's a risky way to do things.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
and these people, they're actually they're using a really good lot for just a garage. So I don't think money's an issue for them.
Now,
I mean, because, you know, if money was an issue, they'd be wanting to put a house on that other lot and sell it, or at least sell a lot. So I don't think that, and I don't think most people, you know, I've replatted stuff, I've bought property, replatted it, made subdivisions, done all that stuff. And for me, all that's cost of doing business, and that's a relatively small cost. The big cost is, you know, getting everything rezoned and going through all the studies and all the kind of stuff that you do there, so.
So let's do this, let's pass that then to Nick to, or Mark, somebody bring us,
Yeah.
just start that process, so then if we want to make sure that's done, is that the consensus?
That's my
That we want it,
consensus.
if we-
But we've already approved it, the way that it is, but can we add to this after we've already approved it?
Well, that one's approved.
So it's done, we can't do it to this one.
It could be months before you put a new rule in books, so, yeah, that one's done. What
We're not
I'll do
trying to-
for next meeting, I'll probably bring you bullet points showing what we think would be the best approach, but if it just is crystal clear that there's one right way to do this, we may bring you an ordinance for first reading.
There you go.
Okay, one more, I just wanna make sure I got all this straight in my mind. If I look a year from now at the property appraisal map, does it still gonna show 2 lots at,
Yes.
So
that's what it is?
the answer is complicated. If you look at the regular property appraiser map without adjusting any of the settings, it's gonna look like one lot, one parcel.
Right.
But if you go and you click on the different layers, it'll show you the platted lots, so that one lot, when they get a line through the middle, it'll show
Right.
2 lots. So it'll show both, depending on which information you request.
So Bay County could go back and say, well, this is 2 lots to start with, we split it back, which is what's been done.
Well, Bay County would say, it's always been 2 lots, they just got permission to have it taxed differently, as one property.
As far as Bay County is concerned, it's never been anything but 2 lots,
Well,
unless we plat it.
you gotta be clear.
And by the way, I misspoke, there wouldn't be a first reading of the ordinance next meeting, because it would be land development code revision, so it'd go to the planning board. But we'll bring it some dates.
Okay. All right, we moving on?
Sure.
All right, we're gonna, Nick, you got anything else?
Oh, let's just talk about something else for a second.
No. All right, before we get to administrator, I wanna take a minute and let, if you don't mind, I wanna let, we have most all of our staff people here, which I think needs to be, I don't know that we need a written monthly or report, but we'll start with Kathy from Code, do you have any updates to give us, to talk about that we need to be aware of?
I can give you some updates on like the demos that we've completed.
There you go.
It's not very formal because I just found out about it this morning, but the ones that have a line draw through it, they're gone, or they've already been worked on. The RVs they're still out there. These are the demos, just the ones that have the line, we know something has been done to that. It's either gone down or they're rebuilding. A lot of them I have talked to the people, there are some things that they are gonna be doing.
All right, we're all looking with you.
Okay. So, it looks like, I think we had maybe around 40 on there, and I think we've knocked off, 11 so far that I've drawn lines through. Some people, if you go down to some of the, letters that I sent out, were returned unclaimed, because they don't wanna do it. We're trying to find these people and trying to get them to do it, but we're having a difficult time, so I'm probably gonna have to get with Nick on what our next level will be. on
There's
some of these.
notice by newspaper means, and the whole process laid out that we can follow.
Okay. We might have to start working that way on some of these individuals who don't wanna talk to us, I guess. There's a house down on 23rd Street. The very first house down there that's right on the ocean, she is remodeling. She's from Kansas. She's hired a company. So that house will be hopefully starting to look differently. She's hired G&W, I think, construction company. They're gonna be doing it. I've talked to just about almost everybody on here. At some point.
How does the, fish house stuff?
Still looks like a fish house.
Yeah, I know, that's what my point is, if we
And
had,
I can't get the daughters to talk to me.
if we had a
I've called the
center of
stepmom.
city, it's in the center of our city.
I don't know what level to go to next. The daughters won't call me. We've called their mom, spoke to her. She said she would get with the daughters to call me. They never did.
So where are we at on that? I mean, because, I mean, it's been 20 months.
So our process, without looking at it and confirming all the details, the general approach is certified mail to certain parties. They, we send it to their address for tax purposes, and that's good enough. We don't have to ensure that they respond. And if that won't work, then there's a process where we can publish something in a newspaper, but really, we don't need cooperation to advance in a code enforcement case. We just need to follow the required steps to ensure that we've done what we're supposed to do to tell them what's going on. And occasionally in code enforcement cases, there's nobody that comes to defend the case or dispute anything. You just go through the process and get your order from the special master to achieve whatever it is you're trying to do, whether it's fines or demolition or cleanup.
But we've notified them, so now we can issue them a fine, and if the fine doesn't get paid, it goes on the,
Tax records.
and again, because we have adopted something within our code, we can put it on the tax records.
Correct. As far as what, there's some limitations of what you can and can't put on the tax records. If it's just a pure fine, that generally won't count. But if you've gone out and cut the grass or moved the trash or torn down a building, that absolutely can be put on the tax records.
In order for us to tear it down there, we do have to go through, public announcements. You have to make a couple extra efforts, but we can go as far as tearing the buildings down. But then we're at risk of tearing it down and not getting paid. But that's why you put it on the tax records, because typically they're gonna pay the tax records, otherwise they lose the property, in 2 or 3 years.
And typically you get paid if there's a sale. But sometimes if they owe a lot of money on the property, there's a big mortgage, you might not get paid right away. But your lien survives and you get paid the next time.
Kathy, this is the result of the letter? This is the one letter that we sent, I don't know, a month ago,
Yes, sir.
3 weeks ago? Well, I think we as a council need to give some direction of what we wanna do. I mean, we went through I don't wanna say it was agonizing, but we were trying to be as patient and all. We said, let's send a letter and try to gather information, see what these people are doing, even on the demos and the RVs. And we've had, there's just 11, I guess you say, responses in terms of demos that they've actually removed.
Yes, sir.
How many letters we want to see? What, the letter said that we had, refresh my memory, 2 weeks to respond?
2 weeks, yes, sir.
To respond, and there was a fine of, what, $250?
$250. So a lot of people have called. They've sent me letters.
What do you do about returned unclaimed? I mean, there's several of those. What do you do with that when they didn't sign for the letter, I guess, is what happened.
And that's what the fish house.
How does that work, Nick?
Give me a minute or two. I can't recall if that requires to go to the newspaper route or if that's sufficient because we send it to the proper address.
Okay, well, in the meantime, on the code side, of the demo side, I mean, I think we as a council need to, I mean, Kathy sort of, I'm assuming you sort of really need some direction, don't you? I mean,
That would be very helpful, sir.
somehow I thought that. If I were you, I would be sitting there saying, all right, what do y'all want me to do now? I don't know. I mean, I think 11's pretty good, personally.
I really, two in my neighborhood now, two, and we got one more that's gonna do.
But how long do we sit and what do we do? I mean, people that won't talk to you, I don't have a lot of patience for that. I really don't.
Well, you know, I think the 11 that did something were pretty much the ones that are gonna do something, and the rest of them are pretty much not gonna do anything unless
Most
they're
likely.
forced.
Yeah, till you push them some more or something.
And, you know what, I'm not trying to be mean, I try to be understanding about all this stuff, and you know, like we've had our conversations that we're trying to be understanding, but we also have to be understanding about the rest of the citizens that are living next to one of them, or, you know, ride by it every day, or like the fish house, you know. That's our city center, really, and it's nasty looking. And so, if they're not gonna do anything, we gotta get pretty tough. It's been 20 months, and for the rest of our residents, and not only for the rest of our residents, but for all those people that are coming through as tourists, you know, pretty soon that, you know, that you start looking and you go, man, this is not a very well-run city. They're not making these people clean this mess up. So we gotta do something. We gotta force the issue somehow, and I'm sure we don't have the money just to start tearing stuff down and hope that we get paid.
If we do start to tear things down, let's make sure that you give us some good guidelines so that you don't give us a direction that's all inclusive. If there's
Yeah,
a
right.
way of fine tuning that, and I don't know how you fine tune that without making it all inclusive, because again, if you couch it on this is the city center and we need to focus on this, and tear this down, understand that somebody over here might say, I'd like you to do the same thing over here.
Well, you know, if we send another letter and say, look, we're not joking, we're contemplating having to tear this down, put it on your tax records, so this is very serious. You got so many days to return this letter or to call us or do something, and those that won't, then we, I think, go ahead and do it.
To give you an idea, we've done it before. We go in and we'll go to that particular site, we'll get a contractor to give us a price to tear down that building. We'll send a notice that says if we don't receive something from you by X date, we have a contract ready to tear down this site. If we tear this site down, this will go on your tax record for your site.
Right.
It has been done in the past, maybe not here, and I believe that the way that your rules are written, you can do exactly that. So we have the power to do that, but we'd like to have your direction before.
So if we go get a contractor, we do the same thing, we put that up for bids? Okay, so there's no way that they say, well, you know, we found the least expensive guy and here's what he's gonna do.
Now, they may have a buddy that can do it for less, but we have to go through our
But
procurement process.
if they know that we're fixing to use our buddy, and they might ought to go and get their buddy down when they get it done.
Kathy, how many of these are hopeful? Are there any hope? Outside of these 11, all these others are there, and I'm reading some of the things. I'm just curious, and you're talking to them, you have a way to contact everyone on this list, right?
No, sir, not everyone.
No.
The ones that I've got were returned unclaimed.
Okay, we have nothing from them. We don't even know.
Okay, Kathy, Sherry McDowell's passed away,
Right.
okay, so.
So I don't know who the next person is. I mean, I
Andy.
sent it to the trustee.
I can give you her number. I've got Angela, her daughter.
Andy, yeah.
And the 703 Maryland, that house for sale has got a contract already, so that's another one.
That'll be gone.
And then she's going about it. But we need to do something, but if you ride, look, these houses are coming up for sale, or lots are coming up for sale to be cleared. So, but I'm like y'all, I think we need to go ahead and do something, but it is working.
Well, here's an example of this, what I was talking about, that she needs help. Somebody called them 420 and said it'll be, demoed in 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah, but who
It's
gonna
still
talk to
there.
them.
You know,
Yeah.
so what does Kathy do after they said it's gonna be demoed after 4 weeks? So,
Nick, from a legal standpoint, we've got a process, we sent them a letter. For me, I just don't think, at first I wanted to just try to coddle them along and, the hell of
Time
time
to
to do
go
it.
now, it's time to go.
You have everything established in your codes to be more aggressive and advance these toward demolition.
What would be our next step?
So I looked up the notice rules, and I'm not sure how we send the initial notices, but, so initially you go certified mail to their address of record, and if that is unclaimed or refused, or we'll say that doesn't sound mandatory, it says notice may be provided by posting as described in later paragraphs, which are hand delivery by sheriff or law enforcement officer, posting the notice on the building, or leaving the notice with the manager of a commercial business. So you can get the notice to occur, and if you go through those steps, again, even if nobody responds, and even if you don't have an active person on the other side that's participating, you don't need to. When you've gone through the sufficient effort on the laws to try to get them in touch and tell them what's going on, you can advance the case without them. So the real consideration though is if let's say you have a dozen properties that would need to be demolished, you've got to think about ahead of time, do you have sufficient money if you had to demolish a dozen properties? And if not, get a strategy in place for the amount of money that you are willing to spend.
That's our problem, they're gonna put us in a financial bind in terms of, I mean, that sounds good, yeah, we'll tear it down, but, we don't have the money to, this is the worst thing in the world.
had to wait 2 or 3 years to get your money.
Yeah, it's not a turnaround, that's right.
And then you may end up in litigation.
I'm gonna suggest for me that in 2 weeks when we meet again, that you, as an example, receive a letter, demo as soon as COVID's over, 521, I don't know what 521 LTR demo list, what does that mean?
The letter, the LTR, it's the letter.
Oh, okay, 521 letter. Well, the COVID may not be over for 2 years. What does that mean?
Where are you at?
I'm down at Jamie Kelly.
That's those 2 houses that are right up there as you come over the canal. They're coming into the city, they're on the left, up there.
Is
One
it,
of them.
is it possible in those that you can talk to and those that you can't, maybe I can give you some names, and I'd look at these more, people to call,
Now, I've
that
talked
we,
to Jimmy
that we,
about,
that we get a defined time. I mean, when the COVID's over, to me, that's not an answer. This thing, I'm in a lawsuit, what do you do with that? The guy says, hey, I'm in a lawsuit. Well,
You don't have to wait as a city, but if it makes sense to wait, I think it's fair to wait.
I think what I'm asking, I would like even more detail than this so that I could vote yes or no to whether or not, how we're gonna deal with it.
well, the one that's down right underneath there, that's a lawsuit, I've talked to Melissa several times. And she, just even last week, she sent me an email and some information. Her husband was still giving depositions, and she flat out said that they were adamant about not tearing that place down yet. The insurance company.
For
won't
the
let them.
insurance lawsuit,
Yeah, that could be a variety of reasons. It may be that the insurance company is not convinced that it's supposed to be torn down, or it might just be a matter of preserving what's there while
okay,
everyone's
all right,
fighting over
well,
what's going on. It's gonna get torn down.
I didn't realize that was a insurance, okay, I'm with you. Can we fine tune this list in 2 weeks with maybe detail that would help maybe all of us decide how to proceed and look at each one of them?
Sure.
Can we do that with, so that when we look out here, we know who you talk to? No, is it gonna take a, are y'all okay with that? And try to come up with a, I mean, if we just don't, if we don't hear from anybody, or they don't wanna sign the letter, I don't know what to do, but there's some of these I think we can move along.
Can I ask you another question? If a contractor is gonna tear this down, is there any way we could make those people responsible to pay that? Can we initiate it and make them responsible to pay that, so that there's more pressure for them to pay that?
I'm not sure actually what you're asking.
So if we send a contractor to her old place and she's not willing to take care of,
Right.
then that contractor can give that bill to her, we can't make that happen. We can't
No.
initiate it, because we can't.
Before we would send a contractor over to do work, we would go through multiple steps of code enforcement. We'd have already gone through the special master. We wouldn't just, the only reason the city would just send a contractor out immediately without any of these hearings and steps and processes is basically if people were at risk of serious injury or death.
Okay.
Can't you start finding them every day? I mean, I brought that up a month ago, you said the first letters went out $250. That's a joke. I got a slumlord down at the end of my block, Colorado, on Maryland, that trailer was cut in half. He owns 2 of them, Peter. His mailing address is 8 miles away in Port St. Joe. He ain't done a damn thing. What's $250? It's a joke. If you start finding them, $250 a week, whatever, somebody's gonna wake up here eventually.
His mother's a lawyer. That's that, third one right there. Fort St. Joe. He lives there, Fort St. Joe. He gonna answer.
Yeah,
I can buy his
exactly,
house.
exactly. 20 months later, it's still
We
sitting
adopted
there.
a fee
Sir,
schedule.
Don Merritt.
Louisiana, Maryland, Cheers, C-H-E-C.
Oh, check.
Yeah,
So-
you know,
Last year, the council adopted a schedule of fines for code enforcement. I don't know where we are as far as assessing those fines, but we have all that. I think there's been some decision to be a little bit lenient, but yeah, we can be more aggressive. as
Well,
far as-
let's take this, clean it up, give us as much information as feasible about each one. And in 2 weeks, I think I think we should come here prepared to say, okay, here's what we're gonna do. And make sure that we all understand what the process is. Maybe,
Give you that fee schedule.
yeah, give us that fine and, you know, so that we know. Cause I don't think we just need, I'm not willing to just keep sitting. We're never gonna look good if we don't get out of here what needs to jump. Thank you, Kathy. Loving that job, boy.
Oh, yes, sir.
Well, you do a good job. What about, Gina, you have anything for building department? Just
Yes, sir.
give us, put it on.
We have moved, the building department has moved from trade offices with city clerk, so that we are now, able to come into the line and speak with someone through the glass window. So,
Well, you don't have many visitors that way.
that's exactly, that's the idea.
Oh, okay.
That is the idea of not having a room full of people in City Hall so people can come in and do their business but not linger.
Good.
Also, we've been down one staff member, but we've hired someone and they'll start next week. So we'll be better about getting phone, cause it's been ringing off the hook for sure. Tranquil Harbor was issued their CO yesterday,
Yes.
so they joined the short list of condos that have a CO.
That's good for a lot of people.
It is.
That's
it
good
is.
news for
Very
a lot
good.
of people too, but.
So we've had, I think we gave you a report on permits issued in April. And since then, we've had 9 new residential, single-family homes. 17 remodels, and 18 accessory structures on residential side. No new commercial. We've got 24 permits that are in some sort of process. They've been submitted and are in process. One of which we received yesterday, and that is the Express Lane. Across from Fishkill. That's all we got.
Can you put that one on the top of the list?
I have been informed.
I did ask her today if that was ready to be picked up.
Yes, yes.
Great job you're doing there, Gina, thanks, and
Oh.
Kathy, kind of doing a great job.
Any questions for Gina?
Are the fish fighting on your river yet?
I don't know, I don't have time.
You know, she's,
Yes,
yeah.
they were. Alright, let's move on. I'm gonna get away from the committee. Tommy, you got anything public work? You, or Thomas, either one? or
Yeah,
both?
Mayor, Council, Public Works been busy last couple of weeks. Probably a lot of y'all know that, we removed part of the pier, out of the water down around Sixth Street. Had one of our visitors got out there and got on something. We didn't actually know what it was, but when we got out there, we found a pretty good chunk of the pier. I wanna give a thanks out to some of my guys, Troy, Nick, Tim, Andy, and Ken. They actually moved the dredge down. We had to dredge it up to get it out of there and cut it up. It was quite a bit of stuff. I included some pictures on the paper I left up there, y'all kind of get an idea. A few other things that we've done in the last couple of weeks. You've been down 15th Street, you've noticed that we started cleaning out all our ditches all the way up to the city right of ways, which are looking really good. We're gonna continue that down 386 all the way down, come around till we reach Highway 98. So, guys are working on that. Sunset Park, we started hauling the beach compatible sand in there to build that back up so that we can, get our parks built back when the time comes. Right now, we've hauled about 25 loads down there and dumped it in there, so y'all notice that the sand's gonna start going back towards the water, so, you know, we had a bad washout right there. Also, this past couple of days, we had a storm come through, we got a lot of high surf from that. Guys are down there dredging right now, we got a little bit of sand in the mouth of the canal, we'll get that out in the next couple of days. So the snapper season here on us, make sure we keep the canal open and everything moving. Also, we had a request, down on the marina to get the water back down on the boat slips and some of those catwalks, temporarily repaired so that people could use those slips. Yesterday, we got Thomas and the water department went down and installed a new water meter. We've, took and fixed all those bulkheads that were busted, got hose bibs on them temporarily so that boaters will have water down on there. And I think Thomas probably bring it up just a minute that the water is on there now. Also, those catwalks, Kim's down there now finishing those up. We'll have all that safe, so those can be used. And I won't go to the rest of this, y'all have a copy of it, but, it's been pretty busy. Thank you.
Questions?
Yes, sir. Just, people on Basin Lane, you took care of the drainage problem there?
Yes, sir. That was, Tim and Andy did that yesterday. They uncovered the drain on the end by the road. We've got all that cleaned out now and we've raised those up so that those wouldn't be down below the sand grade, so everything should flow good there now.
Sound good, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thomas, you got anything?
Yes, the only thing I have is, as Tommy mentioned, we do have water on the boat docks, slips. They now have the backflow properly installed, everything's good to go. Martin come by yesterday, he was happy with it. So that is on. The other thing I have is sanitation now is on twice a week pickup. We're back to
It's all that on the water bill.
So everybody,
That's a good sign. That's a good sign that we need
and
to.
I will say this, the garbage pounds, I talked to Mario about it, and Monday after Memorial Day, we had more garbage hauled to the incinerator than we did the Memorial Day of 2017. So where our garbage pounds are going up significantly compared to what we've been doing the past 2 years. So that's a good sign there.
Thank you.
That's gonna do it. That's all I got.
Y'all did it. I got one question for you, please. What time do you have to get here to get that chair?
Just chair that chair.
One to Felicia's Should be. What- How long you been here since that?
But it was in here like 7 o'clock.
No.
Jared, how do
No, we get that.
I came in after he did.
what you got, Marty? You got anything for us?
I supplied everybody with a copy of
Yeah.
March, April, and May's stats on call for service, miles patrolled, arrests, traffic stop citations, and accidents.
That's a lot of miles patrolled in one little town, and
It's a lot of terms.
Is there any activities specifically that you think we, as a city, needs to know about? I mean, is this what you call routine?
This is pretty much routine and everything, and like I've talked to a couple of y'all before and everything, we're trying to educate the golf cart crowd. And trying to.
You gonna have a job very especially down there around Smith's house. I'm just saying that.
We didn't have to put that out.
Him being the golf cart kingpin down there. But it's working, people are understanding, we're actually giving out the flyers with the city ordinances and stuff on them
Good.
also whenever they do it, so it's not nothing that's not known. And we're just trying to get it back to a point where everybody's on the same sheet of music and we can do it without any problems from any other agencies or anything else coming in here and writing them tickets and everything else. Other than that, we've everything been going smooth for us, hasn't it?
All right, any questions for Marty, please?
no, you know, the golf carts. I know parents may think it's cute letting a little child drive a golf cart, but please, it's not safe for the people in the cart or anybody else to have a young child driving.
You back there?
I'm fine.
What you got, Fire?
It was interesting going through the figures. Up until the end of March, we were 20% ahead on the number of the previous year. And then up until yesterday, we were exactly the same number for this day yesterday as we were last year. So our volume has fallen off since COVID-19 took over. Hopefully now with the return to slightly more normal numbers, our numbers will increase in a nice way. I don't want anything to go wrong for anybody, but it just means that at least we know there are more people back in the city. We've completely moved in upstairs, punch list is done. I'd just like to say thanks to both Tommy and Thomas for welcoming the fire department into their building and making it possible for us to work out of here by moving vehicles and so on and so forth outside. Now that we're getting COs in the city, our plan is to get together with all the building managers and start doing pre-incident fire plans so that we know exactly what the layout of the buildings are, since they would have changed from the storm and so on and so forth, so that we have our response will be as quick as possible with the right information to hand. And that's pretty much it. We're going to continue obviously painting hydrants as the weather will allow. And the last big thing is engine 43 had required some maintenance that got put on the long finger due to moves and so on and so forth. I'm hoping to get it all finished off this week. He's supposed to be in later on this week to finish that off, and it'll be 100% service. So other than that, all is good, and we are fully staffed with a reasonable number of part-timers as well to back us up when needed.
Great, thank you. Question, anybody? Monique, good to see you.
Again,
This is not to put you on the spot. I can tell you, of all that you've heard today, there's nothing more important than what may come out of your mouth, I can tell you. Do you have any, or Mario, have y'all discussed any information she may want to give us?
She's ready to talk.
She's ready?
I
Okay,
think,
good.
I think I am. Okay, the finance department, where we're at, we started on the project management, aspect, and that's getting all the projects into our software, and we're developing that so that we can track all the expense that's going out and all the income that is coming in for those projects. Then we have been working on our fixed asset list. We got together basically of what assets we have still, what got damaged in the storm. And then we also, got a list from Lindsay that tell us what was paid for, by the insurance company. So that's where we're at. And we still working on catching up the past records as far as bank reconciliation and, making sure what's in the bank account, that's what's in our books.
Okay, awesome. Is there any thoughts of moving out of pool cash? Has that crossed anyone's mind? Is that even a?
No.
Not-
Okay.
Let's move on.
Never mind. Well, I understand. I guess I'm just, I'll keep thinking.
Hopeful.
Okay, never mind.
Mayor, if I could add a couple little
Please.
things, on the fixed asset, we inherited a record. That record is very old. That's why Tommy, Thomas, Sandy are all looking at it to see what is still there. Because, we have 1997 radios. Those radios have come and gone and they've been replaced 3 times. That's the level of scouring we're having to go through the asset list. But one of the questions that I have for the council is, that old asset list went all the way down to items that were $250. Today, according to the rules that accountants have to follow, we can take that limit all the way up to $5,000. The reason for having some level that we don't go below, and if we can't go over, is you want to follow assets that have a reason for us to follow. Again, a radio gets replaced, a saw gets replaced, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to follow those kind of things. But a four-wheeler, we wanna know when that goes away, and you have to sell it in some way, fashion, or form. Computers are $2,000 a piece, those are replaced every couple, 3 years. I would like to get your input on where to set that ceiling. Like I said, 5,000 is what we cannot go over 5,000, that much I know. But do we wanna bring that ceiling down to 2,000? Do we wanna bring that ceiling to 3,000, to 4,000? I'd like to know what ceiling y'all would like. To give you an idea, the radio that Sandy has wrapped around him, all in is about $4,000. I wouldn't mind being able to track a $4,000 radio. Wouldn't mind being able to track, 4,000 ATV. But, his chop saw that is $2,000. Again, I'd like to know what y'all would like, because it's gonna give her direction, and it's gonna allow us to cull this list down to something that's a little bit more manageable, because right now, the list is so all-inclusive that we can't.
Well, it makes sense. I don't know how to answer that. For me, I'm old school. I wanna know if we got something that's worth $1,000.
Okay, and if that's what you want, that's
No,
what we'll try.
that may be insignificant stuff, I don't know, but I think,
We have to know what we got.
I'm like, 250, I can understand, but
But we don't have a list yet, though, is what you're saying?
Right now, I have a list that's, 8 pages long,
Yeah,
that we're trying to call down for equipment that we don't even think even exists anymore.
Yeah.
But from this point forward, we'd like to know where that cutoff is. Is it 5,000, is it 4,000, 3,000, or is it 1,000? We're just asking for input from y'all.
Can we get a copy of that list and kind of look, so we'll make a better informed decision? Is that,
We'll get you the cold list, sir.
well, that's the only way we know if we can say if something's not worth tracking.
well, I'm just looking at value, I'm not looking at
Yeah,
how many
right.
items, I'm just looking at value.
Sure, right.
It's gonna change, the value of everything changes every year, it goes up, so.
Yeah, it don't go down, does it?
well, the auditors, they recommend 5,000, and really and truly, if something comes off the fixed asset list, it can be recorded in other areas. For example, a computer, if a computer costs $250, a computer monitor, that can go under, that can reclassify as office supply versus a fixed asset. But we can get you. a
Well, are you recommending something to us? When you say for us, again, in my business, if it's $1,000, I wanna know where it is.
I mean, the plan is to still track everything, but technically, at this point, we kind of trying to work with the auditors as far as what they recommend, basically. The decision is really up to you guys, of course, but that's what was recommended by the auditors. But as I'm saying, if something falls off the fixed asset list, it will be reclassified somewhere else, so.
Oh, okay.
It isn't that we don't track it, it's that for the auditors, we have to track it above whatever point we set. And there's that,
There's
same
one
thing,
thing
you know.
that helped me in that case. First, I mean,
No.
I don't wanna see an 8-page list.
Yeah.
What percentage would you say, if we said, $3,000 of the list you got right now, what percentage of that list would be gone?
It's hard to tell because technically, the list hasn't been updated in a while, and there's so many things on the list that probably doesn't exist now. So it would best to give you guys a copy of that list after Thomas and Sandy goes through it to tell what we really have, because some stuff on that list didn't exist, and then there's other stuff that the hurricane probably damaged or, so we're not working with a very efficient list right now, and then not until they're all finished with it, we can really give you a copy and say, okay, this is what we have exist, and this is at $1,000, this is at $250,000, so.
Yeah, a current list might help.
Right, and that's what.
But an 8-page list that hadn't been updated in 10 years, no.
To give you an idea, if the current list included every saw and every drill in there, is that what you wanna see, or do you wanna see lawnmowers up? That's
I'm
where
with
I'm
you.
going.
You wanna know what to put on the list, I mean, if you don't have to put, okay, I'm.
Shop supplies.
Hmm?
Put it all on the shop supplies under one, instead of the saws and the drills or something, just put it under one.
But again, we literally have to put a little tab with a number on it if we want it on this list. And that's what I'm saying, do you want the saws on that list, or do you want it to wait until we get to the trailer that hauls the saw to be on the list? It's not that we're not tracking the saws, it's that it doesn't go on the
I don't think this
audit.
is a council decision.
I gotta know that dollar limit, cause I can't set that. 'Cause if you're leaving it up to me, I'll go to the state and we're at $5,000.
Yeah, all right.
It's that simple.
I'm gonna vote for that, I'm gonna say $1,000, cause I don't know what's on the list. I'm telling you, I don't wanna give up stuff. I don't really understand, Monique, how, if it's under $1,000, does it go on no list?
It's still
It wouldn't go on the fixed asset list, and
Okay.
then part of the fixed
Fixed
asset.
asset list, that's important, I missed that point.
We would definitely put it somewhere else, like
Okay.
office supply.
Like, see, I'm thinking that we
It
just,
would be lost.
It's
No,
not
it's
gonna
not
just
lost.
disappear.
oh, okay, all right, fixed asset list, that's a little different.
which
And then part of,
depreciates.
part of the fixed asset is that, after, for example, if we have a building for certain years, we have to depreciate it, so,
I'm
certain
with you.
things.
I
we don't want
understand.
on the fixed asset list.
2,500.
2,500, do we hear?
2,500, that's half of what they said it should be.
Did
I don't trust it.
And the state recommends, is 5,
The state sets it at 5, it cannot go higher than 5.
For fixed assets, I mean, I understand that, I got a little bit, I see why we don't wanna try to put a chair, and a lamp, and
Well, they're preparing a new list, so that's gonna give us a little better idea, we can at least,
they don't want to put on.
But if we can start at 2,500, that takes again, with each number, there's a lot more items below those numbers than there is above those numbers.
Okay.
Folks, we can do this, come on, we can do this.
Okay.
What do you want?
What they said, I had in mind 3,000, so we're pretty close.
I say 3,000, what you say, Lee? What you say? 3,000, that's me, I'm too positive for 3,000.
I'll do 3.
Appreciate it, how about you?
yeah.
Move on.
Move on.
Next.
Let's go.
Good job.
Good.
Do you feel better?
You wanted
She
five.
would, she would be ecstatic at five, but I just wanted, and, along the lines of where the mayor was mentioning, you know, going off of pooled cash, we're not at that level, but what Monique mentioned about project management is gonna get us in that direction. Because once we get into project management, now that project, let's say that it's the municipal complex, those dollars will be assigned to the municipal complex, and then all the contracts that go to it will be assigned to that project. So this is a wonderful tool for her to be able to manage the project that will eventually be in multiple departments and everything else. So it's a great component for that. We're gonna hit that, and,
Now, you on you, or you on still on
this,
Monique?
this is still
Okay,
finance.
I've got to figure where you
Yeah.
are.
And then the other thing, Keith, Lemasters, who's helping everyone, is working on the ad valorem side of the world to see what the property values were, what they are, so that we can start to work on our budget for next year. So we are starting to dust things off to start looking at that. We are looking at our budget from last year and see how we're performing to that. That's the part that we don't know because we're still, you know, cleaning the books.
So-
Any of your, meetings with the other, I think y'all call it your administrative meeting or your county manager, anything surfaced about Triumph helping us again? With our, with the tax? No, it hasn't.
No, I haven't, again, on the Triumph Fund, it's been
I know,
Scarce.
I'm trying not to mention.
scarce.
Okay, Monique, thank you. Does the clerk have any news?
Basically, I'm looking into taking some electronic record keeping classes, just so that make things a little more streamlined. And, I'm getting a lot of public records requests.
Really?
Employee records requests, just different, they're continuing to come in. And then, basically, we moved office, I was gonna mention that, Gina already mentioned that, so that's helping out.
Good.
Apart from that, just playing catch up.
There you go. All right, Mr. Dewberry, you back, I see you back there, you've been awful quiet. We saved you last. I figured you'd have some projects to talk to us about. Josh, how you doing?
Good.
Good.
I really don't have much to talk about, other than the citywide streets. We've ridden the streets and we're working on getting that plan set together right now. Met with Mario last week on Sunset Park. I mean, we've got some items to take care of as far as architecturally there where we can really get that one kicked off. And we also have the sidewalks and the parking that we're working on, getting our survey identified and getting those plans set started. So it's a quick update, but it's a lot of work.
Could you expand a little on the streets? I saw that made the news. We're gonna, I know we have a map and it shows bits and pieces or all of the street or are we going to, when are we gonna try to move forward with that?
Well, we're moving forward with it right now, so we're taking those maps, and what we're looking at now, and that's something that we'll have to meet on when we get the areas identified, is, you know, whether in the damage description with FEMA, from what I've seen, they identified very small areas of some of these streets that were a cut and patch area like a 5x5. Where we had, you know, other streets had pieces and portions, but what I think we need to look towards as we put this plan set together is if there are full streets, we can transfer these areas, these small areas over and get an entire street repaved, and we need to look at taking those small areas and attacking the streets that were most damaged and getting a fully repaved street on some of these.
Okay, y'all gonna work together on coming up with some kind of plan that's, okay, and then is the money obligated?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Street money?
The reason that we kicked off both of those in our last meeting to put them under contract is because those monies are obligated for both the sidewalks and for the roadways. But again, it is for the work, It is only for work that was damaged by the hurricane, not from old wear and tear. Which is why it's so piecemeal
Right.
looking.
Questions for Josh on any of our projects or anything that, in connection to that, Mario, this may be under your report, I don't know, but I talked to Rodney Chamberlain with DOT, who in return sent me the lady's name, and I draw a blank, but about the landscaping that will come about after the dune walkovers are complete. And then we have a $475,000 grant from DOT to do from 8th Street to the county line. And we have a $50,000 grant from DOT to do Sunset Park. Now, that money has been received by the city, the 50, not the 475. So, in our short time working together with Mario and I mean, he knows I'm impatient. But I'm ready to get something on that highway, and it'll make us all feel better if we can see that landscaped area. Can you tell us as a group how we're gonna proceed with that?
Right now, I need to get a landscape architect on board, so one way to do that is to go through Dewberry to do that, or to put out an RFQ for a landscape architect to have those services. One of the requirements that FDOT has is, that we have to submit signed and sealed drawings by a landscape architect in order to show what we plan on building before they will physically release the money. So, if I can work something out through Dewberry to get something done, but any which way, one of the caveats with that 475 is they are not providing any funding for the design work. So they're giving us $475,000, they're telling us we have to have a landscape architect, but they're saying we cannot use any of that 475 to pay for the landscape architect.
Does it have to be a bona fide architect? Because there are landscape designers that are trained to do landscape design that are not actual architects. And they make great plans. I've used a ton of those kinds of plans, and they're a lot less money, and they can do as good a job as any architect. It's just,
It's their process, and we have to, according to what Dina did check with FDOT, and again, it's gotta be a sign and seal set by a landscape architect.
Is that true for the $50,000 project also?
No, I don't know anything about the 50,000. I thought that was just Ms. McIntosh gave us $50,000.
DOT gave us $50,000, and they said that money has been sent to us. We're in possession of it.
so that's
I
not
hope
Miss,
Monique can find it.
that's not, that's not Miss McIntosh's money.
No, that has nothing,
Separate from Ms. McIntosh.
Ms. McIntosh gave $50,000 for the rebuild Sunset Park.
Right,
Uh,
okay.
And the
I'm,
only thing that I've checked on the landscape architect on it through Dina was, for the
This,
475.
don't take any of this critical, Mario, even though Dina's not sitting here, she may be listening. I'm gonna talk to DOT myself.
Sure.
Because that can cost a big chunk of
A
money.
lot of money, and then there goes all of the
And
plans.
then we plant 5 trees, and we
Right.
spent $50,000
Right.
giving somebody
Yeah, surely they'll be lenient with that, because, I mean, even if we had to get a designer to do the design, and then maybe an architect can,
I'm gonna ask,
yeah,
I've got it.
because that's a ton of money that we don't need to spend if we can get away with it.
All right, but that's in the making, and that's how that works. I do know that what they're saying,
Yeah,
But Al, would it help if you did like before and sold people the palm, or they buy the palm tree and have a plaque put on it with,
well, that's
You know,
gonna have
we
to
did
be
that
something
before.
that we talk about as a group.
to
You
help
know,
pay for the,
They
Cost.
pay for the tree. I don't know if we wanna get into that again or not.
I was just thinking it might help financially with whatever.
Well,
I don't know.
you know, it's like everything else, they tell you got this money. We all remember when FEMA came here after the storm, and had all, I mean, it was, you would've thought that we'd have to reinforce this roof, the money was just gonna push the damn ceiling back. Well, it's just not gonna happen that way. Same with DOT, they give us the money, but there's these, here's what you gotta do, and here's how you have to do it, and I understand that, they're giving away tax, I fully understand, but I don't know, Sharon, if that's, would even be an option. I don't, I'm gonna have to find that out.
I'm just thinking it might help, you know.
And it may, if we as a council, if that's the look we want back down there with trees and plaques and,
Right.
I don't know, that's something we'll have to decide. I think we definitely will have to approve the plan. So we can, but I wanna ask you about this design piece, what we gotta go.
I would think there'll be room later to put the black tree. Sunset Park is a good example. You know, my mother-in-law had one there,
Mm-hmm.
and, you know, we loved it, so.
Yeah, I think there will be options in, maybe not along the house, but I think there's areas of town that would come in. I know the CDC had, I think every tree the CDC building had down there had a plaque on. But that'll be our call. Josh, I didn't mean to, are you good? Any questions for Dewberry? All right, Mauro, you're last.
Okay. I wanna thank Josh, because we put together a quick little drawing at the marina for boat parking, and they actually took a drawing and put it in AutoCAD so that it's not just a rough sketch, but, and then they also put it on a program called AutoTurn, so even I could, you know, park a boat within those slips that we've designated here. This is an idea, don't have to do it, but we know that we have snapper season opening up and then scallop season right behind it. If council likes this idea, what I had talked to Tommy about doing is potentially taking some landscape timbers and delineating every third parking space. These parking spaces are delineated at 15 feet wide and 50 feet long, with the idea that you've got to be able to take a little bit wider turn to get trailers in and out, and then at 50 feet long, because we figured trailer and boat is about 50 feet long when you combine the two. This gives us a row of 6, a row of 10, another row of 10, and a row of 9, just within the area. If we did it with a landscape timber and pin that timber down with a piece of rebar, again, it's just giving you ideas of where to park, because if you don't have anything out there, people just park at random. If you like it, we'll implement it. If you don't like it, we'll just leave it as is. We did include 2 areas in red. The one area in red closest to the boat ramp is where the boat ramp would eventually be extended to, that we're going after funds to do the engineering on. And then the other area in red is where we really need to move the facilities that we had designed for the boat ramp. We need to move it into that area because we didn't take into account that we were gonna have a boat ramp over here, and that building used to be a lot closer to the boat ramp. So just a couple of simple things, and then along the roadway, either parallel park or diagonal park, but try to reserve almost all of the parking within the gravel area for boat trailers. If you like it, we'll try to implement it before Thursday. If you don't, then we'll just let it ride.
I kinda like it, right now it gets pretty scary right there. People start parking everywhere and taking up too much space or whatever.
Well, I've been around boat ramps a lot in my life, all my life, really, and, first guy there is gonna park where he parks, and the second guy's gonna, they're all gonna get to closest spots. And I just think we're gonna have it's great, but, trying to get these guys, they're just pulling up, want the closest spot.
Well, these will still be spots, I mean, and people will park wherever they're going to, but at least tries to delineate something.
Tries to make them have some sort of order. Yeah. I don't even think 3 or 4 guys out there with whistles and 4-wheelers could get them where you want them.
I'm gonna be there. Something better than nothing, Mario, I mean,
Yeah,
I'm not talking
right.
about, but I say let's try it, and if we don't have enough room, if you count the boat slips, it'd be 3 times that many boats, but we need to at least get them, I think me and Mr. Williams, and whoever, Sandy or somebody, we're gonna try to organize something, or try to get something, help them. If we could charge to get them to the boat ramp and park the cars on 98, you know, that'd speed things along. We just got to help do what we gotta do. And I think this is a good idea you and Josh come up with. The best I've seen, I don't know of anybody else.
And then I also wanted to thank staff, everybody worked pretty hard to get the place ready for the storm that we had this weekend. I know that we parked the dredge in a good, safe place, and we pinned up all the equipment that we had in places. We contacted the construction crews and asked them to pick up and safe up everything. So again, there was good prep work that went on there, and then also after the fact, cleaning up and picking up and getting the hose, dredge pipe and all those things out. We did have some beach erosion. It looks like the sand fence from El Governor to the east up alongside the homes for probably about half a mile. Some of that sand fence did come down, and then even a little bit of the dune was eroded over just east of El Governor. So we did have a little bit of damage on those. We had a little bit of erosion on the Brandy Bridge at Salt Creek. I sent those over to Dina to just ask her, so I knew that she had designed that, but we might have to do something there to keep that from.
That guy's sleeping on, is that his sleep, I mean, it's missing, it's created a river right there.
That is a question, because there is a completely missing section of wall, and I don't know if that's private property or our property or whose property it is, but I can see where that's an issue.
Yeah.
So
That's where that water,
maybe Josh and I could go look at that. It's on the Gulf side of the bridge. That one stilt house that's right next to it is missing probably a 15-foot section of
Yeah.
vinyl wall. So look at that. And then lastly, I mentioned, we had some issues with, we used to have bathrooms at all the city parks. We no longer have bathrooms because we're still trying to rebuild city parks. But we've looked into providing portalettes at Sunset Park, at Toucans, at the city pier, and at the end of Canal Street. So we've got a price for $1,300 for 1 month for 2 portalettes at each one of those locations, twice a week clean out. So they would clean out on Friday just before the weekend, and clean out on either Monday or Tuesday, depending on, how things flow, so that we can maintain that. I got that price for 1 month. It's within my authority to get to that level. If you want me to extend that all the way through the September timeframe, it'll be more than $1,000. It's $1,300 per month, but I figured for June, it would be good. For July, it'd be good. Probably even for August, it would be good. But wanted y'all to consider that. The other thing that I did ask Tommy to put together is a price to put a small screen wall, so that as you're driving up and down 98, you're not looking at a portalette, you're looking at a small screen wall, and then the portalette is behind it. Doesn't mean that you don't see it, it just means it helps provide a little bit of a screen. If y'all are okay with that, we held off on doing it last weekend because we knew there was a storm that was gonna be blowing around. The other reason for the screen wall is to give us something to secure the portalettes, so they don't blow down and or people don't push them over.
Because these was explored by Michael, his people don't.
We're gonna try. FEMA typically pays for the first year for temporary services. We're outside of that first year. We're gonna try to go after it by saying it's for sanitary, public health, safety, and all those things, but I'm pushing the limits. It's not a huge cost. Again, right now, there is a portalette that has been installed by someone
from Noel's house, and it's, I've asked Tommy about it, and Tommy said he didn't know. what-
Mayor, I had an email from the lady that lives there in the
She
house
wants it
on
taken
that
down.
corner. And she asked me if the city put it there, and I told her, I said, we did not put it there, we don't know who put it there. And she told me, she said she was gonna call Johnny Mize and see if she could find out. She wasn't real happy with it.
No,
there, and I
she's
told her-
not.
I told her it was
She's
just
my neighbor,
temporary.
tell me about it.
So we're gonna get our arms around that and get it hauled off, because I don't know that it's even there on purpose. It may have just made its way there.
Well, it's been cleaned out.
I don't know we don't know anything about it. We're trying to get,
Miss Bobby, it was setting, I told the mayor, it was setting at Sixth Street.
Sixth Street.
Somebody said it at Sixth Street to start with, on the corner, just like it is at First, or C Street now, and they moved it to C Street. That's the same, I'm pretty sure that's the same one.
Was that the one?
Quality.
We're gonna look at porta potty.
Well, on Sixth Street,
Is it the guys doing the walkovers?
Yes.
yes,
Walkovers.
that's what.
They need a bathroom.
Not there.
not there.
They had it at
No.
Sixth Street.
It wouldn't be there.
Like down the corner, right beside
No, but when it was on Sixth Street, is what I'm saying.
But again, there's somebody road picking it up and moving it, so that's why.
Can we
I said-
put it down at
It only
CDC
stayed on
office?
Sixth Street for maybe a week.
Can we put it at the CDC office?
I already got one. You bring it on down, come on, I'll take it. It'll be great with my
Marty,
landscape.
what else you got? I don't wanna get her started.
We're gonna get it hauled off is what we're gonna do, but if y'all are okay with those locations, would you like for
We need-
for
we
us
gotta
to
have
keep
some
those
sort of
going
record.
through
We
September?
gotta have something.
I think we gotta go at least until September.
Absolutely.
Yes.
We can't.
I agree.
Because Labor Day, there's a couple
Yeah.
weeks after Labor Day, it starts really winding down, so.
Yep, let's do it.
Something that I did hear, Mayor mentioned something about the city manager's meeting. The incinerator is gonna be taken offline in the next 6 to 8 months, which is gonna mean that our haul for sanitary is gonna get more complicated, because right now from here to the incinerator is probably 30 some odd miles, and when it goes all the way out to Steel Field, it's gonna be 50 some odd miles. So we're gonna have to do a little bit of adapting, and talking to the county manager, they may retain some transferability at the incinerator, but the word may is not firm in any way, shape, fashion, or form. They basically said the next time that the incinerator spits and sputters and costs more than $50,000-$60,000 to fix it, they're just gonna take it offline. So it's a heads up, and I've given that heads up to Tommy, to Thomas, so that he knows that may hit us without much more notice than that. And that is it for me.
Well, let me ask you, if that happens, are they gonna rescind the ordinance where that all Bay County trash has to go to the incinerator?
Yes, sir.
So then we could negotiate somewhere else? Is Gulf County?
I did reach out to, BCC in Gulf County, that's the transfer station in Gulf
Yeah.
County. They will not accept household garbage until further notice. They have no way of accepting out of our trucks. They said.
They have no way what?
They can't empty our trucks at their transfer station. I've done reached out, I done got a price on what we need. It's $85 per ton, we're paying $54 per ton, if I in Bay County.
Yeah, that's what it is. But they
Now, if
might-
we could get it to BCC at $85 a ton, I could justify that based on the fuel costs and overtime rate going all the way to Steelfield, 4 days a week.
On steel fields are killing.
That's what we're currently having to do right now. That's why, I should have mentioned this earlier, trash start at 6 AM, but some people call me and say, hey, my trash, my can's behind the house and I didn't get it picked up this morning. I don't have the time frame, y'all see where I'm going with this? I don't have the time to go behind every single person's house, put on 2 people on the truck, and get it to Steelfield and get the route picked up at the same
Why
time.
we're going to Steelfield now?
Yes, sir. Incinerator was shut down last Friday.
And it
As
happens
of
all
last
the
Friday,
time.
trash goes to Steelfield, till further notice.
Oh, it's shut down for it's not.
Shut down for the annual shutdown right now. But there is a possibility of it not reopening.
And that's where he was saying,
Okay.
if
Keep
it
us
costs over
informed.
100
That's-
something
that's-
else.
That's gonna affect our pocketbook.
Well, I've already started adjusting next year's budget to reflect some of that, along with some other stuff for sanitation. So I take these numbers into consideration.
through where we.
And the lady told me for BCC, she said, look, don't expect it for another year, just tell me.
Close. They got this land all
They had
built.
to rebuild the whole building.
Yeah.
Carl, you got anything else?
That is it, sir.
Good. Council comments? Sharon, you got anything?
No,
Darryl, wait for you, I know you got something. I'm good. Jim?
I just want to tell everybody thank you. That's all.
And I only comment because we're coming, Rock. We're not gonna leave without you. This format that we use today, where we have, this was sort of revert back to the way it used to be with the staff and people talking to us. Is that good with everybody?
I like
Do
it.
you like it every meeting or every other meeting? I'm gonna
Yeah.
ask.
probably good.
I-
Yeah, I like it every meeting.
why not every meeting?
Yeah, I like it.
That way if we have something to ask them, they hear, I mean.
Every meeting it is, put it on, and add, I forgot Josh, put him on there.
Okay.
He didn't have much today, but he will. All right, Darryl, what you got?
And just quick, and maybe out of line, but a community thank you to some of our businesses that are doing really well. One in particular, BJ's Automotive, which is in St. Joe, but a lot of people have gone there. They have plugged 16,000 tires from the hurricane and have not charged a nickel for it. And I just wanna give a shout out to a really good person like that. That's, just to give them a little bit of publicity to say thank you for doing that. That's incredible.
Thank you is a word we can't use enough.
And thank everyone here. I know everybody, and, you know, I'm seeing that everybody's starting to come together and really get kind of teamed back up again. We're all on the same team. We're all wearing the same jersey, and, you know, don't let anything fester. If you got something that's bothering you, go back, go talk to it. And, you know, let's get it out and let's work together like a good team. This is great. I enjoyed the meeting. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, Rock, yes, sir.
Just two quick things. I want to say thank you for the porta potties and the boat ramp. And the other thing, when we talk about boat ramp, I talked to your facilities.
Talk about what then?
The boat ramp.
Oh, boat ramp.
I talked about facilities. You know, I go down there and clean it up, me and my wife. And I gave up trying to keep the sand off of the walkway down there. It's running down from the hill.
Yeah.
Thomas knows what I'm talking about. Since you guys, that's why I asked about the funding. You said it's dedicated funding for the boat ramp. Can you free up some money to add another row of block along the top of that? Not only is the sand running down there, but that one ramp, the north ramp, it's filling it in with sand.
Is that nice lady sitting close to you? Ask her if we got any free money.
Well, I mean, you said that was dedicated money for the boat ramp.
Well, we do have,
Yeah.
the money that we take in is, but when we go to pool cash, I'll be honest with you, I don't know what money's where.
Okay, and you know, we're basically playing catch up right now. You know, we're trying to reconcile all the, we're currently in the fiscal year 2019. We have our auditors coming out in July to get our audit report done. We're working our way into 2020, and we just want to catch everything up before we start commenting basically on what money we have sitting out here, because, you know, the vote wasn't up to date basically, and that's how I inherited it, so.
It's gonna take us a while to decide, but that money from the boat slips, or boat, launching, was designed for the upkeep of the boat launch.
Yeah.
But Michael made us have, things have just gotten, you follow me?
Yeah.
But thank you for cleaning up. Thank you for
And
cleaning
he
up.
said, right, when we get down with the backhoe, maybe take some dirt out of there.
Yeah, we can do that. We
Try to
can back
keep
up
that-
down, dig some of it out, pull it back, and, yeah.
Kathy, do we keep, is it your job to keep the envelopes in the,
Yes, sir.
okay, so we have them there?
Yes, sir.
She's doing good. She's doing good. And Rob, to give a little credit where it's due, right now, the, porta potty at the boat ramp is put in there by the Greek Association.
Yeah, I seen it last week.
One of them.
Yeah,
And-
two of them down there.
One for the mayor.
And
But appreciate that.
there's one other that's being provided by
Yes,
the mayor.
by the mayor.
By Kathy's Hardware.
Right.
The artificial reefs that were put down on the 30th of last month, the Mexico Beach Artificial Reef Association reached out to the St. Joe Company that typically would match some Triumph funds. The Triumph funds fell through, and they reassigned those monies back to the Artificial Reef Association, and the Artificial Reef Association is getting ready to put another load of reef down by the end of, if it's not at the end of June, it's at the beginning of July, so there's about to be some more artificial reefs going down. And again, thanks to the staff, again, there's an amazing amount of things that are going on, and the daily activities are already a full-time job. You throw a storm on top of it, and it's incredible what's being accomplished. You know, Mary's over there writing checks at a rate that's just incredible. She makes every payroll check, she makes every invoice check. There's a lot of work that goes on over there. Again, I know that Sherry receives everything that's coming in for all the water bills and all the garbage bills and all the boat slip retainage and even the slip usage. So that there's so many things that happen behind the scenes that we really don't see. So thank you for the thank yous, because it's amazing what staff is doing. Again, you know, the fire department is gonna be out there for, you know, snapper season. You don't see that in other fire departments. You don't see, you know, the same things that the sheriff does. When we had a big weekend, they brought extra people out here. Again, staff is doing things above and beyond. Kathy massages her week so that she can be here part of the day on Saturdays, knowing that the boat ramp's gonna be utilized in ways. So again, thanks for the staff for being so adaptive, and nobody's looking at a job description saying, I'm not supposed to do that. They know there's a big blank sheet on the back, and we add lines to it every day. So thanks to everybody for all they do.
Yes. All right, we're, trying to leave, so what you got, Cameron?
I just have a quick question. Where we stand on street signs, I have people getting lost in Mexico Beach. I didn't think it was possible, but they missed 37th Street and it just ruins their whole day.
Have you
So,
talked to Tommy about it?
I did. He said, I'm waiting on council.
Oh.
I'm teasing. He did not say that. He did not
We
say
put
that.
those drawings out.
Well,
to bid.
check what we'll be.
That's what I said.
Along those lines, FEMA did come through on those funds. We did just let those drawings out to bid. We only received one bid. That bid was let, so they are fabricating signs as we speak. As soon as those signs come in, our own staff will do the installation, so it's coming to a theater near you.
Have you seen some of the creative
I
ones that
have.
people,
They're
I
very-
sort of like them.
We could use porta potties to do street markers if we need to.
We get all those.
Oh, Lord. Motion for adjournment. Thank you, everybody, for coming. This morning's meeting for me. Everybody started at 8 o'clock.
I didn't give out by now.
Good job, Cameron. Just keep plugging away.